Welcome to the discussion. Today we're diving into a fascinating critique of a long-standing market valuation metric, the CAPE ratio. The paper will be discussing challenges its traditional use, arguing that it's become less reliable in today's dynamic markets.
Precisely. While the CAPE ratio, developed by Nobel laureate Robert Shiller, has been a staple for decades, its assumptions no longer fully align with the realities of modern markets.
So it's not that the CAPE ratio is inherently flawed, but rather its application needs reevaluation?
Exactly. Its limitations have become increasingly pronounced, making it potentially misleading if used in isolation.
Intriguing. Let's unpack this. What are some of the key limitations the paper highlights? First, let's refresh our understanding. How is the CAPE ratio calculated and what's its intended purpose?
The cyclically adjusted price-to-earnings ratio, or CAPE, divides the current market price by the average of inflation-adjusted earnings over the past 10 years. The goal is to smooth out earnings fluctuations over a full business cycle, providing a more stable valuation metric than a standard P/E ratio.
So it aims to provide a longer-term perspective, less susceptible to short-term market volatility. The paper mentions that the CAPE ratio has historically underestimated U.S. equity returns. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, consistently since 1988, the CAPE ratio has projected returns 5–10% or more below actual realized returns. This suggests that relying solely on CAPE for investment decisions might have led to missed opportunities. The exception was the period from the dot-com bubble to the global financial crisis. Outside of that period, following CAPE would have likely led investors to make poor allocation decisions across asset classes, countries, and sectors.
That's a significant point. It suggests that the CAPE ratio, while offering a long-term view, might not accurately predict future returns. The paper identifies three key issues. Let's start with the static stock composition myth.
The CAPE ratio assumes a constant mix of stocks over time. This is a major flaw in today's market. High-growth tech companies now dominate indices, with dramatically increased earnings and market weights over the past decade. The numerator, the current market price, reflects these larger earnings, but the denominator, the average earnings over 10 years, includes much smaller weights and lower earnings from a decade ago. This creates a distorted valuation. Take NVIDIA, for example. Its current market weight reflects its massive earnings growth, but the 10-year average underrepresents its current contribution.
So the ratio doesn't adequately capture the dramatic shifts in market composition and the growth of specific sectors. The second issue is the buyback blind spot. How does that affect the CAPE ratio's accuracy?
The CAPE ratio doesn't account for share buybacks, a significant capital return method. Buybacks reduce the share count, increasing earnings per share, EPS, without a corresponding increase in overall corporate earnings. Two identical companies, one returning capital through dividends and the other through buybacks, will show vastly different CAPE ratios, even though their underlying businesses are the same. This is particularly relevant today given the prevalence of buybacks.
This highlights a crucial difference in how companies return capital to shareholders, a factor the CAPE ratio doesn't fully consider. The third issue is the cross-market incompatibility. How does this limit the CAPE ratio's usefulness in international comparisons?
Direct comparisons using CAPE across countries often ignore fundamental differences. U.S. companies are more likely to engage in buybacks, and the U.S. market has seen substantial earnings growth, unlike many foreign markets. A market with 0% EPS growth will have a constant CAPE ratio, while a market with 10% growth will see a significantly increasing CAPE ratio over time, even if the trailing P/E remains the same. This makes direct comparisons misleading. The higher CAPE ratio in the U.S. often reflects higher EPS growth, not necessarily overvaluation.
So comparing CAPE ratios across countries without considering these underlying differences can lead to inaccurate conclusions about relative valuations. Given these limitations, what does the paper suggest as an alternative approach to market valuation?
The paper advocates for a more nuanced approach, incorporating multiple valuation metrics beyond CAPE, analyzing sector-specific growth trends, considering capital return strategies, and recognizing structural changes in market composition. It's about moving away from relying on a single metric to a more holistic and comprehensive framework.
A more diversified and context-aware approach to valuation, then. How can investors practically address these limitations of the CAPE ratio?
Investors should incorporate a wider range of valuation metrics, consider the impact of buybacks, and analyze sector-specific growth trends. They should also understand the limitations of cross-market comparisons using CAPE. A more comprehensive approach is crucial for accurate market valuation in today's dynamic environment.
So it's about being more aware of the context and using the CAPE ratio as one piece of a larger puzzle, not the entire picture. The paper emphasizes the importance of context. Can you elaborate on that?
Absolutely. The CAPE ratio, while useful, shouldn't be interpreted in isolation. Understanding the underlying factors driving earnings growth, the prevalence of buybacks, and the composition of the market are crucial for accurate interpretation. Ignoring these factors can lead to misinterpretations and potentially poor investment decisions.
So, context is key to avoiding misinterpretations and making informed investment decisions. How can investors practically apply these insights to their investment strategies?
Investors should diversify their valuation tools, incorporate qualitative factors, and understand the limitations of any single metric. They should also consider the specific characteristics of different markets and sectors when making investment decisions. A more holistic approach is essential for navigating the complexities of today's markets.
It's about a more nuanced and comprehensive approach to investment analysis. What does the future hold for market valuation metrics in light of these findings?
We're likely to see a shift towards more sophisticated and dynamic valuation models that incorporate a wider range of factors, including qualitative aspects and the impact of technological advancements. The reliance on single metrics like CAPE will likely decrease in favor of more comprehensive approaches.
So, the field of market valuation is likely to evolve to better reflect the complexities of modern markets. Let's summarize the key takeaways. The CAPE ratio, while historically significant, has limitations in today's market due to changing stock composition, buybacks, and cross-market inconsistencies.
Precisely. Investors should use it as one tool among many, not as the sole determinant of market valuation. A more holistic approach, considering multiple metrics and contextual factors, is crucial for making informed investment decisions.
And this requires a deeper understanding of the underlying dynamics of the market. So, while the CAPE ratio remains a valuable tool, its limitations must be acknowledged and addressed for accurate market valuation. A more comprehensive approach is essential for navigating the complexities of today's dynamic markets.
Absolutely. The paper serves as a valuable reminder that relying on a single metric can be misleading, and a more nuanced approach is necessary for effective investment decision making.
That was a great discussion. Thank you for your insights.